Hi, my name is Frankie. I'm 19 years old, and I thought my family would be proud when I earned a full-ride scholarship interview. But the night before, I woke up to the most shocking betrayal of my life. My own sister had stolen my passport. That moment changed everything. I had to decide. Give up or fight back? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories about family drama, betrayal, and finding courage. I woke up earlier than usual that morning, heart pounding with both nerves and excitement. The scholarship interview was just hours away. For months, I had worked late nights balancing high school, part-time shifts at the diner, and endless practice sessions to prepare. This was supposed to be the day where all that hard work finally meant something. I could almost see myself on the flight to the university town, walking into that interview room, ready to prove I belonged there. I stretched, rubbed my eyes, and sat up in bed, glancing at the digital clock on my nightstand. 6:12 a.m. too early for anyone else in the house to be awake. That was good. I wanted the calm and quiet before the storm. I pulled my folder of documents out of my backpack, double-checking everything like I had done the night before. Resume? Check. Recommendation letters? Check. Passport? My hands froze. The passport wasn't where I always kept it, inside the zipped pocket of my travel folder. At first, I thought maybe I had just moved it while rearranging. I emptied the folder onto my bed. Loose papers, pens, even a spare set of photographs I had kept, but no passport. A wave of panic spread through me. I crouched on the floor, unzipping every compartment of my backpack. Nothing. I stood, opened my dresser drawers, then the nightstand, then my jacket pockets. Still nothing. That's when the fear in my stomach turned heavy. My chest tightened. No. I whispered to myself, trying not to cry this early in the morning. Then something strange. When I walked out of my room and down the hallway, I saw a sliver of light under my sister's door. She never woke up early, not unless she had a reason. I stopped, staring at that thin strip of yellow light. My heart thudded in my chest. Memories started flashing through my mind. Little moments I had brushed off before. The way she sneered when I mentioned the scholarship. How she joked with her friends that Frankie thinks she's smarter than everyone else. The cutting remarks about me wanting to leave this town and act like I'm better. Could it be? No, I told myself. That's too extreme, even for her. But deep down, something inside me already knew. I knocked gently. Jenna. I called out. No answer. I knocked louder. Jenna, I know you're awake. After a long pause, the door opened just a crack. Her messy hair fell into her face, and she squinted at me with that practiced look of innocence. What? She mumbled, as if she had just been dragged out of a deep sleep. I tried to steady my voice. Have you seen my passport? Her eyes widened for the briefest second. So quick, I almost missed it. Then she smirked, tilting her head. Why would I know where your stuff is? Maybe you should stop losing things all the time. Her words stung. I've always been careful, always double-checking everything. She knew it. My mom always teased me for being too organized. For her to suggest I just lost it felt like a deliberate jab. I stared at her, trying to read the truth in her eyes. She didn't flinch. Just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, looking smug. Something inside me snapped. Jenna, this isn't funny. I need it for my interview. Please, if you know where it is, give it back. She let out a fake yawn. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe you should check the trash. You're always leaving stuff everywhere. Then she shut the door in my face. I stood there in the hallway, fists clenched, fighting the urge to scream. I could hear the faint scrape of something, maybe her moving a drawer, maybe just shifting in bed. But in that moment I knew. She had it. The house was silent except for the hum of the fridge downstairs. My parents' door was still closed. They wouldn't wake for at least another hour. I wanted to knock and tell them, but a part of me already knew how it would play out. They would believe her. They always did. I tiptoed back to my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and buried my face in my hands. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. I needed to think. I needed to breathe. The clock ticked loudly, each second feeling heavier than the last. I remembered the first time Jenna betrayed me in small ways. Like the time she spread rumors at school that I cheated on a test, even though I hadn't. Or when she borrowed my clothes without asking and ruined them, then lied to my mom saying I gave them to her. Those were small, petty things. Annoying, yes, but survivable. This was different. This was her reaching into my future and trying to snatch it away from me. For a moment, I felt powerless, like I was standing on a cliff, and she had cut the rope holding me up. But then another feeling began to creep in. Something sharper, stronger. Anger. Not the kind that makes you yell or throw things, but the kind that simmers deep, the kind that whispers, "You are not going to let her win." I wiped my eyes, stood up, and paced the room. I opened my window, letting the cool morning air hit my face, and tried to clear my head. Birds were chirping outside, the neighborhood quiet and peaceful. It felt wrong, almost cruel, that the world outside was so calm when my world inside had just exploded. I thought about calling my best friend, but it was too early. I thought about waking my parents, but that would just turn into another blame game. So instead, I decided to start searching again. Every drawer, every bag, even under the bed, just in case I had overlooked something. Nothing. Finally, I sat back on my bed and whispered to myself. She wants me to panic. She wants me to give up. But I wasn't going to. Not this time. I sat on the edge of my bed, whispering to myself. She wants me to panic. My hands were still trembling, but my voice grew steadier as I repeated the words. I wasn't going to let Jenna see me fall apart. The sound of movement broke through the silence. Footsteps creaking across the hallway floor. My parents were finally awake. The smell of coffee soon drifted from the kitchen. That familiar bitter scent that usually brought me comfort. This morning it felt like a cruel joke. I walked into the kitchen slowly, clutching the folder of documents that now felt useless without the passport. Mom stood by the coffee maker, pouring 2 mugs. Dad sat at the table, flipping through the newspaper, his glasses sliding down his nose. "Morning," Mom said casually, not even looking up. "You're up early." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "My passport is missing." That got their attention. Dad lowered the paper, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean missing? You're the most organized one in this house. You sure you didn't misplace it?" I shook my head quickly. "No, I always keep it in the same pocket of my folder. It's not there. I've searched everywhere." Jenna chose that moment to stroll in, hair brushed now, phone in her hand like she'd just been scrolling without a care in the world. "Oh, you lost it already?" she said, her voice light but sharp. "That's kind of careless, Frankie. Isn't today your big day?" I turned to her, my chest tightening. "I didn't lose it. You took it." The room went silent. Mom's hand froze halfway to her mouth, the mug of coffee steaming. Dad's brows furrowed. Jenna let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. "You're seriously accusing me? That's ridiculous." I stepped closer, heat rising in my face. "You were awake before me. I saw your light on. You've been making comments for weeks about how I think I'm better than you. Just tell the truth." Her eyes glistened with fake tears. "Mom, Dad, are you hearing this? She's blaming me because she can't keep track of her stuff." Mom immediately turned toward me, her voice sharp. "Frankie, stop. This is not the morning for your drama. You're nervous about your interview, and now you're lashing out. Don't put this on your sister." The words hit me like a slap. My throat closed up, but I forced myself to speak. "This isn't nerves. She's trying to ruin this for me." Dad sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Frankie, enough. You've always been responsible, but lately you've been so intense. Maybe you just misplaced it in all the excitement." Jenna sniffled, wiping at her dry eyes as if she'd been crying. "I'd never do something like that," she said softly, pretending to sound hurt. I stared at her, disbelief flooding through me. The performance was flawless, just enough innocence, just enough wounded pride to make them rally behind her. "You always take her side," I whispered, my voice shaking. Mom's jaw tightened. "We don't take sides. But you can't go around throwing accusations without proof. Now go back to your room and calm down. We'll look for it later." Later. The word echoed like a curse. My interview was hours away. "I don't have later," I snapped. "If I don't have that passport, I can't even get on the bus to the airport. Dad set his coffee down harder than necessary, the mug clinking against the table. Enough, Frankie. You're blowing this way out of proportion. The walls felt like they were closing in. My chest burned, my hands shook. I wanted to scream that they never believed me, that Jenna had always been their favorite. But the words tangled in my throat, heavy and useless. Jenna crossed the kitchen and gently placed her hand on Mom's shoulder, like she was the innocent victim in all of this. It's okay, she whispered, but loud enough for me to hear. She's just stressed. Let's not make it worse. That act, her pretending to comfort them while smirking at me, nearly broke me. I turned and stormed back to my room, slamming the door harder than I meant to. My pulse pounded in my ears. For a few seconds, I just stood there, staring at the blank wall, feeling like I'd been erased. They chose her. Again. My eyes blurred with tears, but I refused to let them fall. Instead, I grabbed my phone and dialed my best friend Mia. She picked up on the second ring, her voice groggy. Frankie? It's not even 7. What's going on? I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. She took it, Mia. My passport. And they don't believe me. Mia sat up. I could hear her sheets rustling. Wait, what? Your sister? Yes. I saw her light on. I know it was her. But my parents, they think I'm just being paranoid. They're siding with her like always. There was silence on the other end for a moment, then Mia's voice sharpened. That's messed up. Frankie, you worked too hard for this. You can't let her ruin it. I don't know what to do, I whispered, sinking onto my bed. They won't listen to me. They never do. Mia's tone softened. Listen, I've seen how they treat you. This isn't new. But this time it's bigger. You can't let them decide your future for you. We'll figure something out. Her words steadied me, just enough to breathe again. Still, when I hung up, the house felt suffocating. A knock came at my door. I didn't answer, but it opened anyway. Dad stepped in, his expression tired, frustrated. Frankie, your mom and I are worried about you, he said. You've been under a lot of pressure. Maybe this scholarship stuff has gotten into your head. Accusing your sister of stealing? That's a serious claim. I clenched my jaw. I'm not imagining this. She took it because she doesn't want me to leave. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Your sister may get jealous sometimes, but she wouldn't go that far. I laughed bitterly. You don't know her like I do. His eyes hardened. Watch your tone. I looked at him, really looked at him. The disappointment in his eyes wasn't for Jenna, it was for me. No matter what I said, they had already made up their minds. When he left, closing the door gently behind him, I finally let the tears fall. But they weren't just from sadness anymore. They were from fury. They didn't just ignore me. They silenced me. And as I sat there, wiping my face with the back of my hand, one thought burned stronger than the rest. If they were going to choose sides, then I needed to stop playing fair. The silence in my room felt unbearable. After Dad closed the door, the weight of the house pressed down on me like heavy walls inching closer, trying to suffocate me. I could still hear faint voices from the kitchen. My parents talking softly to Jenna, their tones filled with sympathy. That was the part that stung the most. While I sat here drowning, they were out there comforting the person who had thrown me the anchor. I pressed my palms into my eyes, forcing myself to breathe, but the air came out shaky, uneven. The clock on my nightstand ticked like a drumbeat, counting down to the end of my future. For a moment, I almost gave in. The thought slid into my mind, quiet and cruel. Maybe they're right. Maybe this dream isn't worth it. Maybe I should just let it go. But the image of Jenna's smirk in the kitchen flashed before me, and the thought shattered. She wanted me to quit. She wanted me stuck here, under her shadow, while she thrived off the attention. If I let her win, she wouldn't just take my passport. She'd take every chance I'd ever fight for. I stood suddenly, the movement so fast my chair screeched against the floor. My hands shook, not from fear this time, but from something sharper, determination. I grabbed my phone again, and called Mia. She answered instantly this time, like she'd been waiting. Frankie. Her voice was urgent. I can't do this alone, I whispered, my throat raw. They're all against me. Then don't do it alone, she said firmly. Come here. Now. My parents will help. They always said you're like family. We'll figure this out together. Her words lit a spark in me. I didn't even hesitate. I shoved my folder into my bag, zipped it shut, and headed for the door. But when I opened it, Jenna was standing there, leaning against the hallway wall with her phone in hand, smirking like she'd been waiting. Going somewhere? She asked casually. I froze. My instinct screamed at me to shove past her. But something in her tone made me pause. What do you want? I snapped. She shrugged, tilting her head. You know, it's funny. You've always acted like the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect plans. And now look at you. Begging, crying, accusing me. Kind of pathetic, don't you think? My fists clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. Give it back. Her grin widened. I don't know what you're talking about. She slid her phone into her pocket and leaned closer, her voice dropping. Even if I did have it, what could you do? Mom and Dad already think you're losing it. They'll believe me over you every time. The words sank like poison into my chest. She was right. No amount of begging would change their minds. But instead of crumbling, I surprised even myself. I stepped forward, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to keep eye contact. You think you've won? I whispered. You've underestimated me. For the first time, her smirk faltered. Just a flicker, but I saw it. And that was enough. I pushed past her without another word and walked out the front door, my bag slung over my shoulder. The cool morning air hit my skin like a wake-up call. For the first time that day, I felt like I could breathe. The walk to Mia's house wasn't long, but every step carried a mix of dread and relief. The dread came from the thought of Jenna sitting smug at home, convinced she'd destroyed me. The relief came from knowing I wasn't truly alone. Mia opened the door before I even knocked. She pulled me inside, her eyes scanning my face. You look like you've been through a war. I have, I said, my voice shaky but laced with a bitter laugh. Her mom, Mrs. Lopez, appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Frankie? Sweetheart, what's wrong? I hesitated, unsure how much to share, but Mia jumped in. Her sister's messing with her. She needs help and she can't get it at home. Mrs. Lopez's face softened with concern. You're always welcome here. Whatever you need, we'll figure it out. The warmth in her voice almost broke me. I hadn't realized how starved I was for someone to believe me, to stand on my side without hesitation. I sat at their kitchen table, the smell of pancakes and syrup lingering in the air, and for the first time that morning, I let the tears fall freely, not out of weakness, but out of sheer exhaustion. Mia squeezed my hand. So what's the plan? I shook my head. I don't know. Without the passport, I can't even board the bus. And I can't prove she has it. Mrs. Lopez tapped her chin thoughtfully. Do you remember when we helped you set up that safe deposit box at the bank last year? The one for your important papers. My breath caught. I had almost forgotten. Inside that box, I had left copies of my documents, just in case something ever happened. It wasn't a full solution, but it was a start. Hope flickered in my chest, fragile but real. You're right, I said slowly. There's something there. Maybe enough to keep me moving forward. The clock on their wall ticked loudly. The time I had left was shrinking fast. But sitting in that kitchen, surrounded by people who believed in me, I realized something important. Desperation didn't have to mean defeat. It could also mean discovery. And maybe, just maybe, I was stronger than I'd ever given myself credit for. I straightened in my chair, wiped my eyes, and looked at Mia and her mom. Okay, let's do this. And in that moment, I felt it, the shift from desperation to hidden strength. The kind that rises quietly but fiercely when you've been pushed to your breaking point. I sat at the Lopez family's kitchen table, my palms pressed flat against the smooth wooden surface, heart thumping like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest. The idea of the safe deposit box kept circling my thoughts. It wasn't perfect. Copies of documents weren't always enough for travel. But it was something. It was mine. Mia leaned forward, her eyes shining. Frankie, you've got this. You made a backup for a reason. This is your lifeline. Her confidence steadied me, even as doubt crept in. What if the copies weren't accepted? What if I wasted precious time? What if Jenna somehow figured out my plan and tried to stop me? Mrs. Lopez set a mug of tea in front of me, the steam curling upward like a gentle hand stroking my nerves. Sweetheart, you're stronger than you know. You prepared for this moment without even realizing it. Her words washed over me, and I inhaled deeply, letting the warmth of the tea and her belief settle into me. Then I need to go, I said, standing abruptly, the chair legs scraping against the floor. The bank opens in less than an hour. Mia grabbed her keys before I could say another word. I'm driving. The ride to the bank was a blur. My mind jumped between fear and determination, my nails tapping against my thighs in a restless rhythm. Every red light felt like an enemy, every passing minute a thief. When we finally pulled into the parking lot, the sight of the building made my stomach twist. Ordinary brick walls and glass doors, but inside, my entire future might be waiting in a small steel box. We rushed in, the cool air conditioning wrapping around us. The clerk at the counter gave me a polite smile. How can I help you today? I swallowed hard. I need to access my safe deposit box. She asked for ID and my pulse spiked. Of course ID. My driver's license was in my wallet, thank God. I handed it over with trembling fingers, half expecting some disaster to strike. But after a quick glance she nodded. Right this way. The sound of the heavy vault door opening echoed in my chest. The clerk led me to the box, slid it free, and placed it on the counter in the private room. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, neatly stacked in a folder, were copies of my birth certificate, school records, and yes, the backup passport I'd gotten months ago when the original was being renewed. For a moment the air left my lungs. Relief surged through me so fiercely I almost collapsed. Mia clapped her hands together, whispering, "You genius." I touched the documents with trembling fingers, like they might vanish if I wasn't careful. I don't know if this will be enough, but it's something. It means Jenna didn't win. I tucked the papers into my bag, securing them like treasure. As we walked back out, I felt a shift inside me. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled me. I had a plan now, something Jenna couldn't predict. But life wasn't about to make it easy. Back at the Lopez house, as I spread the documents across the kitchen table to review, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. Come home. Now. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. Mia frowned. That doesn't sound good. I stared at the screen, dread pooling in my chest. She knows. Or Jenna told her something. Against my better judgment, I went. Walking back into my house felt like stepping into enemy territory. The air was thick with tension. Mom sat at the dining table, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Dad was beside her, silent, his jaw tight. And Jenna, of course, stood leaning against the wall, her expression smug. Frankie, Mom began, her voice clipped. Your sister told us everything. About your accusations, your outbursts, and your sneaking around. My mouth went dry. Sneaking around? I went to Mia's. Jenna cut in sweetly. She's hiding things, Mom. Doesn't that seem suspicious? The room spun for a second. I wanted to scream, to expose her, but I forced myself to stay calm. My secret backup was my power now, and the last thing I could do was let her sniff it out. I'm not hiding anything, I said steadily. I just needed space. Mom's eyes narrowed. You have an interview tomorrow. We expect you to behave. No more drama. The hypocrisy nearly choked me. Behave. After Jenna sabotaged me? But I swallowed the words. This wasn't the moment to fight. Instead, I nodded and excused myself, walking quickly to my room. Jenna's gaze followed me, sharp and suspicious, but she said nothing. Behind my closed door, I leaned against the wood, trembling. They were watching me now. Every move I made was under scrutiny. But that only made me more determined. That night, I packed quietly. My bag was small, just enough for essentials and the folder of documents. I kept my movements slow, controlled, listening for footsteps in the hall. At midnight, I slipped out. The air outside was cool, the world hushed. My heart pounded as I walked quickly toward the bus station. Every shadow feeling like it might leap out at me. But I didn't stop. When I arrived, the station was nearly empty. A single flickering light buzzed overhead. I clutched my ticket and documents, sitting on the bench with my bag hugged to my chest. Minutes dragged like hours. Every sound, footsteps, distant traffic, even the hum of the vending machine, made me jump. Finally, the bus pulled in. Its headlights cut through the darkness, a beacon calling me forward. I boarded, slid into a seat by the window, and exhaled a shaky breath. For the first time all day, I felt a flicker of victory. As the bus pulled away, I pressed my forehead against the cool glass and whispered to myself, "This isn't over, Jenna. Not even close." Because now the secret backup plan wasn't just unfolding, it was alive. And I was ready to fight. The bus lurched forward, its tires humming against the dark highway. I pressed my forehead to the window, the cool glass soothing the feverish pounding in my head. Outside, the world blurred into streaks of silver streetlights and endless black fields. Inside, my chest heaved with a mixture of panic and relief. I'd done it. I was gone. But freedom didn't feel easy. It felt fragile, like a soap bubble one wrong move could pop. A man in a ball cap 2 rows ahead snored lightly, his head bobbing with each bump in the road. Across from me, a mother held her sleeping toddler close, their breaths rising and falling in unison. Everyone on that bus looked ordinary, safe, untangled from the chaos I had left behind. I envied them. I pulled my bag closer onto my lap and slid my hand inside, fingers brushing the folder. My backup passport, my documents, they were still there. I checked them again, unable to stop myself, then tucked them deeper, hidden beneath a sweater. Only then did I let my shoulders ease. Still my mind churned. Images of Jenna's smirk flashed before me. Mom's cold glare. Dad's silence. The memory burned. They thought they'd cornered me, broken me into submission. But here I was, hurtling down a highway in the dead of night, carrying the last pieces of my hope. At the next stop, a teenage boy climbed aboard, earbuds dangling around his neck. He glanced at me as he passed, and for a moment, suspicion stabbed through me. Did Jenna somehow send someone? Was I being paranoid? Probably. But paranoia was safer than trust. I hugged my bag tighter, and kept my eyes on the window until the tension ebbed. The bus ride stretched on, hour after hour, the monotony broken only by the hiss of air brakes at small-town stations. Finally, near dawn, the bus pulled into the city terminal. The sudden rush of cool morning air slapped me awake as I stepped onto the platform. I had no time to waste. My interview was later that afternoon, but first I needed to rest, to gather myself. I found a cheap motel a few blocks away, the kind with flickering neon signs and a lobby that smelled faintly of coffee and cleaning spray. The man behind the counter gave me a curious look when I asked for a room with cash, but he didn't ask questions. I was grateful for that. Inside the tiny room, with its faded curtains and creaky bed, I finally let myself collapse. My body shook with exhaustion, but sleep wouldn't come. My thoughts circled endlessly. What if I stumbled during the interview? What if my documents weren't accepted? I stared at the ceiling until the hum of the air conditioner lulled me into a shallow, restless sleep. When I woke, sunlight had shifted across the carpet. It was almost noon. My chest clenched. I had just hours left. I freshened up quickly, changed into the clothes I had packed, and double-checked my folder for the 100th time. Standing in front of the mirror, I barely recognized myself. My hair was pulled back neatly, my blouse pressed as best as I could manage. But my eyes, they carried the storm of the last 24 hours. Still, there was a fierceness there too. I wasn't just a girl begging for a chance. I was a survivor walking into a future I had clawed for. On the way to the university, the city buzzed with its usual life. Cars honking, students carrying backpacks, street vendors calling out their deals. The normalcy felt surreal. Here I was about to sit in a room that could change my life, while back home my family likely still thought I was broken and stranded. At the admissions building, my hands trembled as I checked in. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Good luck, Miss Carter." Hearing my last name spoken kindly almost undid me. The waiting area was quiet, just a few other hopefuls scattered around, some flipping through notes, others scrolling their phones. I sat still, my heart pounding, clutching my folder like it was my lifeline. When my name was called, I stood on legs that felt like jelly. The walk down the hallway seemed to stretch forever. Inside the interview room, 3 professors sat at a long table, their faces neutral but expectant. I greeted them, my voice steadier than I felt, and took a seat. The questions came, about my studies, my goals, the challenges I'd faced. At first, my answers were shaky, my palms damp. But then something shifted. As I spoke about late nights studying in the library, about tutoring younger students to pay for textbooks, about the way I dreamed of building a future through education, the words began to flow. Every struggle, every setback, every ounce of betrayal, I channeled it all into my answers. I wasn't just telling them about myself. I was showing them my resilience. One professor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing with interest. You've faced obstacles, haven't you? What kept you going? The question hit deep. My throat tightened, but I didn't falter. I realized, I said slowly, that sometimes the people closest to you won't believe in you. But that doesn't define your worth. What defines you is what you do when no one else is cheering you on. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then one of the professors nodded, jotting something down. When the interview ended, I walked out feeling both drained and alive. I didn't know if I'd won the scholarship yet, but I knew I'd given everything I had. Outside, the afternoon sun was bright, almost blinding. I stepped into it, lifting my face to the warmth. My chest rose with a deep breath, and for the first time in days, it didn't hurt. As I stood there, my phone buzzed. A message from Mia lit the screen. How'd it go? We're all rooting for you. I smiled through tears. Rooting for me. Words I'd never once heard at home. I typed back. It went well. Whatever happens, I'm free. Because that was the truth. My